Hey guys, I'm your guide for this awesome manhwa. Let's dive in and explore it together.
He got into his form, his eyes blazing with determination, and his arm filled with a powerful aura. With the strength of 1,000 suns, Lu Sheng unleashed a crushing blow on the testing dummy. The force was so powerful that it shattered the glass behind it, leaving everyone stunned. To their surprise, Lu Sheng's battle strength was a whopping 15,709. That's like having Hulk's biceps and Iron Man's laser beams combined. He tapped into the power of nature's breathing and stellar techniques, reaching 10 times the standard power level for his blood energy. Lu Sheng was so absorbed in the art of martial combat that he didn't even notice the worker trembling with excitement as he announced that Lu Sheng had passed the Level 1 martial artist assessment. But, wait for it, the worker stuttered and corrected himself. Lu Sheng had actually passed the Level 2 or even 3 assessment. The worker was so confused he didn't even know what the final assessment was, but he promised to report the good news to his seniors and bet his career on it. Before Lu Sheng could even react, the worker had sprinted away, leaving him standing there with a smirk on his face. As the worker sprinted away, Lu Sheng turned to face the towering figure standing behind him. The atmosphere was electric as they locked eyes. Lu Sheng couldn't help but ask, "Anything I can help with?" Suddenly, the towering figure outstretched his hand and introduced himself as Zhao. Lu Sheng took a closer look and realized that this guy was a big deal. Zhao must have been at least 7 feet tall with biceps the size of tree trunks. But Lu Sheng wasn't intimidated. He outstretched his own hand and shook Zhao's hand. Zhao broke into a huge smile and looked like he had just won the lottery. It was clear that he was genuinely happy to shake Lu Sheng's hand. The rest of the people there saw this as the opportunity of a lifetime and rushed over to shake Lu Sheng's hand and take selfies with him. It was like the Beatles had just arrived in town. Lu Sheng was the man of the hour, the martial arts prodigy that everyone wanted to meet. Lu Sheng didn't want to be stuck in the middle of a crowd, so he saw an opening and bolted away. Hundreds of people were chasing him, but they couldn't keep up with Lu Sheng's lightning-fast reflexes. Outside of the assessment center, a group of young girls stood waiting for their seniors' results. Among them was his sister, who shouted his name and grabbed his attention. Lu Sheng walked towards them, wondering why his sister was there in the place. His sister was equally confused and stood tall with her hands on her hips, questioning why Lu Sheng had been sleeping all day. Lu Sheng coughed awkwardly and tried to play it off, saying he was out doing something. The 2 girls who were accompanying Lu Sheng's sister were classmates, and they were both drawn to Lu Sheng's handsome looks. They introduced themselves with the more outgoing one named Fan Fan and the shyer one named Su Nua. They were there to accompany their senior Yang for his assessment. As Fan Fan kept swooning over Lu Sheng's dashing appearance, it was obvious that these ladies were head over heels for him. But the man himself was as humble as a slice of bread and twice as polite. Even King He was blushing at the compliment parade, so Lu Sheng did what any good brother would do. He patted her on the head and bid them farewell. Fan Fan couldn't believe her eyes, who knew that siblings could get along so well. It made King He feel like a beetroot in a blender, but in a good way. Meanwhile, Yang emerged from the assessment center with a look of defeat on her face. The girls gathered around to ask what happened, and Yang let out a deep sigh. Turns out there was an accident that halted the entire assessment until the afternoon. Everyone was shocked and wondering what could have caused such a catastrophe. Yang stammered as she recounted the encounter with a man she referred to as a monster and a prodigy. This guy was about her age but had a blood energy level of 15.7 and a powerful strength of 15,000. To put it mildly, Yang was feeling pretty small compared to him. She always thought she was hot stuff, but compared to this dude she might as well be a twig in a hurricane. The girls were in shock. This was the time they'd seen their always proud senior so set back. They couldn't help but ask for the name of the guy who made Yang feel like a chump. With a serious expression, Yang opened her eyes and revealed that the man's name was none other than Lu Sheng. The group went silent as the 2 girls exchanged a glance toward King He. Even she was shocked. Her own brother? Meanwhile, Lu Sheng was heading home, chomping on a giant dumpling like it was his last meal. As he strode closer to his house, he noticed a bunch of middle-aged moms huddling together, looking quite concerned. Apparently, there were some strangers in the neighborhood from the Red Plain Martial Arts School. That's where Lu Sheng usually goes to check his battle strength, so he was curious about what was going on. After finishing his giant dumpling, Lu Sheng pulled out his phone and saw the clerk calling him. But he knew his supplement had the potential to bring in a huge fortune, so he needed to conduct more research and see if this pharmacy had the qualifications for it. After a peaceful slumber, Lu Sheng found himself in the dream realm once again. He beckoned for IE, his trusty assistant in the dream world, to pull up his life record. As he scrolled through the pages, Lu Sheng was ecstatic to see that his future had been altered. This time he was married, had 3 kids, and died at the ripe old age of 87. Sure, it may not seem like the most exciting life, but it was certainly better than dying as a level 4 martial artist at the age of 37. Lu Sheng scanned through the details of his new life, relishing in the small victories he achieved along the way. At 18 he became a level 2 martial artist and attended a prestigious prodigy camp, where he made it to the top 20. Spent 3 more years in university. After graduation he served in the military for 5 years and retired as a lieutenant officer. Then he started his own martial arts school and continued to hone his skills until he reached level 6 at the age of 45. Although he failed to achieve level 7 at the age of 55, he knew he had come close. He later died during a monster invasion in the year March. He held his fist tightly, feeling a surge of power course through his body. He had successfully changed his future for the better in just a week. He was determined to push through any obstacles and reach his ultimate goal. As Lu Sheng clutched his fist tighter, a sense of determination coursed through his veins. He knew that the mere change he had accomplished was not enough to alter the course of history. He couldn't settle for mediocrity when it came to changing the world. With the weight of humanity's fate on his shoulders, he knew that he needed to push himself to the limit. Level 7, 8, and 9 martial artists were no match for the challenges that awaited him in the future. He needed to go beyond what was considered possible and become a level 10, and even a level 11 martial artist. Lu Sheng understood that his journey wouldn't be easy, but he was determined to persevere. He knew that the road ahead would be rocky, but he was ready to face whatever obstacles lay in his path. The fate of humanity rested on his shoulders, and he knew that he couldn't let them down. He was determined to alter the course of history, to change the inevitable ending. Pause for a here, y'all see that he was married? I wanted to know who he was married to. Anyway, back to the story. In a bright room, Chairman Xiao sat at his desk with a Chinese brush in hand. He carefully crafted each stroke of the character with precision, his brush gliding across the page with ease. The person on the other side of the screen couldn't help but compliment his impressive skills, and claimed that Chairman Xiao is one step closer to level 7 martial artist. But the tone shifted, and the person let out a deep sigh, followed by a sarcastic tone as he said, "Only if Chairman Xiao could put equal effort into education." The comment that followed hit Chairman Xiao like a punch to the gut. He felt his hand shake uncontrollably, causing his last strokes to go crooked. He lifted his brush, his eyes fixed on the screen. With an awkward smile, he replied that he had always dreamed of prodigies rising up from White Lake City. Unfortunately, due to 2 reasons, it had always been a rough road. Firstly, there was no historical martial art family to draw from, and secondly, the city lacked the necessary resources to support and cultivate talent. Even if there was a prodigy, they would inevitably move away to find better opportunities. Chairman Xiao couldn't help but feel a sense of despair wash over him. The man's frustration was palpable as he made it clear to Chairman Xiao that there could be no excuses. With the prodigy camp right around the corner, it had been years since their city had sent a representative, and the lack of promising results was becoming an embarrassment. To make matters worse, the absence of any candidates was the ultimate disgrace. The man's voice dripped with fury and contempt as he delivered this scathing message. The man's final words were resolute and firm. This time, no matter what, the face of White Lake City must be saved. Finally, he ended the call with an abrupt click, leaving Chairman Xiao to ponder the gravity of the situation. Chairman Xiao was livid with frustration and anger. He clenched his fists around the pile of papers, knuckles turning white as he covered his face in exasperation. He had always dreamt of discovering prodigies and achieving promising results, but with limited resources and being stuck at level 6 as a martial artist, it seemed like an impossible feat. He was caught in a rut with no hope of leveling up. Just then, a secretary burst into his office, interrupting his train of thought with urgent news. Chairman Xiao was in no mood for distractions, but the secretary was adamant that he hears the news. She relayed the message of an 18-year-old level 2 martial artist with a staggering battle strength of 15,000. The news was like a breath of fresh air for the chairman, a ray of hope in his dark day. Upon hearing the news, Chairman Zhao snatched the tablet from the secretary and eagerly checked the recordings. The force even shook the secretary's ample bosom, and it went boing boing boing. As both of them scrutinized the recording, Chairman Zhao's sharp eye caught something remarkable. Lu Sheng was executing a perfect state punching technique, Chairman explained to the secretary, a terminology used only in the most elite martial arts circles. The chairman tried to simplify the explanation for the bewildered secretary, telling her that less than 10 people in the world could perform this feat at such a young age. But that was not all. The chairman dug deeper into Lu Sheng's personal information and discovered something even more astounding. How could an 18-year-old possess battle strength that was 10 times the standard level, with only a blood energy level of 15.7? The perfect state could amplify one's strength at most twice, so how was Lu Sheng achieving such a feat? The chairman fell silent for a moment, lost in thought. A 18-year-old, 10 times the standard battle strength, and coming from an average family, the implications were staggering. The excitement was palpable as Chairman Xiao burst out with laughter. He couldn't contain his joy at the prospect of discovering a talent like Lu Sheng. In his excitement, he lifted his secretary high up in the air and hugged her tightly, and it went boing 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 again, causing her to blush. As he spun her around, he declared that Lu Sheng was a martial artist talent that only existed once in 10 million. The secretary, still a bit dizzy, asked the chairman what made a gifted martial artist. With a huge smile on his face, Chairman Xiao explained that some martial artists were simply born with a natural talent that gifted them with abilities beyond imagination. Some could experience a massive surge in their blood energy level, while others could move faster than lightning or unleash explosive power. Determined to meet Lu Sheng and his family, Chairman Xiao quickly got dressed. He couldn't wait to see the young prodigy for himself and offer him an opportunity of a lifetime. At that very moment, a bright-eyed student from the Red Plain eagerly approached the girl with news that they had finally uncovered Lu Sheng's true identity and his place of residence. The younger students, curious as to why their seniors had been devoting so much time to track down this seemingly average and impoverished kid, couldn't help but wonder if Lu Sheng had somehow provoked her wrath. But the girls silenced their doubts with a stern shush, her attention already diverted to an incoming call on her phone. From the conversation, it became clear that the other party had also set their sights on Lu Sheng, and the girl knew she couldn't afford to waste a single moment. The girl barked orders at the young student to scurry off and fetch lavish gifts for both a parent and a younger sibling. Though still befuddled, the student didn't dare question her authority and raced off to the shopping center without a thought. Meanwhile, back at Lu Sheng's humble abode, he was jolted awake by a loud knocking at his bedroom door. When he opened it, he was met with an unexpected sight. His entire family, alongside two unfamiliar faces, had gathered in the living room. Before his mother could even introduce the strangers, one of them eagerly stepped forward, introducing himself as the chairman of the esteemed White Lake Martial Artist Association. Lu Sheng knew that such a high-ranking figure must be at least a level 6 martial artist, but he maintained his cool composure and shook the man's outstretched hand. The chairman, impressed by Lu Sheng's unflappable demeanor, couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration for the young man. Lu Sheng's mother then introduced the other stranger, Ni Shuang, from the Red Plain Martial Arts School. The girl greeted Lu Sheng and reminded him that they had once met, during the Red Plain School. As Lu Sheng took his seat, the chairman launched into his speech. He had come to present Lu Sheng with the coveted badge of a level 2 martial artist, but due to his extraordinary performance, the association had decided to pay him a pension befitting a level 3 martial artist. As if that wasn't enough, the association was also offering a staggering 1 million yuan to encourage Lu Sheng. The news hit Lu Sheng's family like a ton of bricks, leaving them reeling in disbelief. But Lu Sheng himself didn't lose his cool. Though he expressed his gratitude for the support and encouragement, he wasted no time in cutting to the chase. He knew that these kinds of rewards were never handed out without a motive. So he asked the chairman straight up, "Is there anything I need to do?" The chairman was taken aback by Lu Sheng's no-nonsense approach. He reached for an envelope in his suit pocket and produced an invitation to attend the prodigy camp in the province. But before he could even finish his sentence, the girl in the room jumped up and began shaking her head vehemently. "Sure, the prodigy camp might have some of the most talented martial artists around," she said, "but it's also a place that destroys talent." As Lu Sheng took his seat, the girl launched into his speech. As she leaned in, her eyes lit up with a hint of mischief, and she began to spin a tale of her senior brother, a senior at the same school who had once been a prodigy. With his remarkable talent, he had high hopes of going into the camp, but when he returned he was defeated and lost. The young girl implored Lu Sheng not to take the same risk, but the chairman interjected, claiming that Lu Sheng was different. He saw something in the young man that her senior brother lacked, potential that he knew could take him much further. With a flourish, the chairman handed Lu Sheng an envelope and declared that he would respect whatever decision he made. The tension in the air was palpable as Lu Sheng's lips curled up in a sly smile. He accepted the envelope and agreed with the chairman's opinion, declaring that he was up for the challenge. The chairman breathed a sigh of relief, feeling as if a stone had just lifted from his heart. He bade farewell to the family, promising to come and pick up Lu Sheng in a few days. As the door clicked shut behind the chairman, Lu Sheng turned his attention to the young girl sitting before him. The girl's heart raced as she took a closer look at Lu Sheng. He had seemed much more handsome in person. Suddenly she coughed and regained her composure. She came to invite Lu Sheng to become an honor student at the prestigious Red Plain Martial Arts School. As an honor student, he would have access to all the school's classes and equipment, and even have one-on-one sessions with her father. On top of that, he would receive a generous wage with no liability, only asking to use his title. But he also sensed that she had an ulterior motive. And he was right. The girl was thinking to use his prodigious talents as a publicity stunt to make her school even more popular in the city. Despite her persuasive arguments, Lu Sheng calmly declined her offer. The young woman leaped up from her chair, brimming with enthusiasm as she confidently proclaimed that she could offer even greater benefits. Lu Sheng simply shook his head, calmly stating that being an honored member was enough and that she could publicly declare to everyone that he regularly used their equipment and trained there because it was all true. However, he politely declined her offer to become a student, as he had no need for it. With a sense of finality, the girl took a deep breath, realizing that there was nothing more she could do. She reluctantly agreed to the terms and with a heavy heart, announced that from now on, Lu Sheng would be receiving a monthly wage of a staggering 100,000. She rose to bid farewell to Lu Sheng and his family. The family still couldn't believe it, their jaws still on the floor from the shock of it all. But Lu Sheng's gentle smile and reassuring words helped to ease their minds. As he held on to his mother's hand, he couldn't help but notice the calluses that had formed from years of hard work. It was a testament to the sacrifices that his parents had made to support the family. But now things were going to be different. Lu Sheng had achieved the incredible feat of becoming a level 2 martial artist, and he was going to use his skills to provide for his family. From this day forward, his mother would no longer have to work night shifts, and his father could say goodbye to his back-breaking laborious job. Lu Sheng was determined to make sure that his family never had to worry about money again. The pharmacy owner was a bundle of nerves, chewing her nails to the quick as she frantically tried to uncover the identity of the mysterious man who had left behind the incredible supplement. Despite her best efforts, she hadn't been able to find a single clue about him. She had even combed through the list of newly registered pharmacists, but to no avail. The more she delved into the supplement, the more amazed she became. The test results were off the charts. It was multiple times stronger than any level 1 or 2 supplements, and it even surpassed some of the levels 3 supplements. And the best part? There were no side effects to worry about. She couldn't believe her luck. A supplement that could easily fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars, all for a meager margin of 3,000. With a loud thud, she slammed her hand on the table in frustration. She knew that she had struck gold with this supplement, but without the man's help, she was powerless. Suddenly, the clerk's speech became stuttered as he pointed towards the television screen. The pharmacy owner jumped up from her seat in excitement, eager to see what he had discovered. As the news report played, she couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief, her ample bosom bouncing with joy. Boing boing, it seemed that the mysterious master was nothing more than an 18-year-old prodigy from White Lake City. Later that evening, deep in the heart of Guhu Mountain, a shadowy figure darted through the treacherous terrain. It was none other than Lu Sheng, his bag slung over his back as he utilized the stellar technique to increase his agility and speed. It wasn't long before he reached the summit, his breaths coming in short gasps as he used the nature-breathing technique to recover his energy and stamina. With a sudden burst of energy, Lu Sheng broke through the bottleneck once again. It was a feeling like no other, a rush of power coursing through his veins as he stood atop the mountain, his eyes gleaming with determination, and to his surprise, he had broken the bottleneck and leveled up. Lu Sheng had come to this mountain for a very specific reason, to collect rare and potent herbs for his new supplement. He knew that there were countless plants here that had yet to be discovered and used in this era. As he journeyed deeper into the mountain, he plucked the most promising specimens, storing them carefully in his satchel. Finally, he reached the bottom of the mountain, where he had pre-ordered additional herbs from a green-shirt man wearing a hat. The man presented his wares with a sly grin, and Lu Sheng couldn't help but feel a twinge of suspicion. Examining the herbs closely, Lu Sheng could tell that they were all in excellent condition and incredibly fresh. He reached for his wallet to pay the man the agreed-upon price, but suddenly the man's tone changed. With a sneaky glint in his eye, he raised the price twice, pointing to the remaining herbs and insisting that Lu Sheng purchase them all. Well, guess who's going to get his ass smacked? Lu Sheng narrowed his eyes, unimpressed by the sudden change of events. The man who stood before him arrogantly declared that Lu Sheng was an outsider and needed to follow his rules. As he spoke, a group of menacing men emerged from the forest, brandishing weapons in their hands. A wry grin spread across Lu Sheng's face as he instantly recognized what these guys were up to. The group cracked their knuckles and advanced menacingly toward the seemingly naive and innocent teenager, their laughter and threats filling the air. But Lu Sheng was not one to be intimidated easily. In a swift motion, he gripped a giant rock on his side and squeezed it with all his might, shattering it into tiny pieces. The group stood stunned, sweat beading on their foreheads as they realized they were no match for this young powerhouse. With a calm and steady gaze, Lu Sheng removed his hand from the rock and locked eyes with the group, wondering if they still had the foolishness to try and take him on. Their uncertain expressions spoke volumes as they backed away slowly, realizing that they had met their match in this formidable outsider. As Lu Sheng stood tall, the group of men fell to their knees in a flurry of apologies and begged for his forgiveness. They even went as far as calling him daddy. Lu Sheng couldn't help but grin at their sudden change of heart. With a shrug of his broad shoulders, Lu Sheng informed them that he would be on his way. As he picked up the bucket of herbs the green shirt guy had instructed him to take, he was pleasantly surprised to find that they were all free. He had planned to pay for them, but this unexpected turn of events left him feeling grateful. The group watched in awe as Lu Sheng casually strolled away, the bucket of herbs in his hand. Their encounter with him had been a wake-up call, and they knew that they could no longer continue their thuggish ways. They decided to turn their lives around and pursue something more meaningful. As the sun rose on a new day, Lu Sheng arrived at the prodigy camp, a sprawling compound that looked like something out of a military movie. He couldn't help but notice that most of the people here were proudly sporting their badges, while his own badge was still sitting in a display case back at home. A stern-looking middle-aged man approached him and demanded to know why he was there and where he came from. Lu Sheng calmly explained his situation, but the bystanders began to mock him, calling him a redneck for not having a badge. Unperturbed, the man checked his information and quickly realized that Lu Sheng was a man referred by the chairman of the White Lake Association. He guided Lu Sheng to the right place, leading him through the maze of buildings until they finally arrived at their destination. As the candidates filed into the room, the giant doors ominously sealed behind them. Some began to panic, but a stern-looking man quickly introduced the relentless past the entrance exam. They would need to find their way out of the room. Suddenly the ground beneath them gave way, and everyone plummeted into darkness. Some of the candidates were prepared for the fall and landed gracefully, while others crashed to the ground with a sickening thud. For example, this idiot over here. Lu Sheng surveyed the scene calmly, his sharp senses taking in every detail. He looked down the long hallway that stretched out before him, knowing that this was no ordinary passage. As he did, a man in a red coat named Lin began to sneer at the situation. Lin tried to assert his authority over the other candidates, attempting to unify those from Qingyuan City and paint Lu Sheng as an outsider. Pointing a finger at Lu Sheng, he declared that the young man would be nothing more than a cannon folder, a pawn in their game, and ordered Lu Sheng to check out the path for everyone. Lu Sheng chuckled and shoved Lin aside, and smirk etched across his face. "Gigachad always flies solo," he jeered, while the weaklings huddled together like scared pussies. Lin's face flushed with anger and embarrassment as he seethed with the desire to take revenge on Lu Sheng. He threatened to kill him, but little did he know that karma was about to catch up with him. Suddenly, Lu Sheng's foot triggered a hidden trap on the floor, causing a swarm of enormous red balls to cascade down the hallway. As if that wasn't enough, the balls then transformed into high-tech robots that towered over the candidates, each one far stronger than a level 1 martial artist. With well over a dozen of them, the odds were stacked against the group. As the two cowards continued to taunt Lu Sheng, a brave girl warned him to be careful. But he didn't need the warning as he casually caught one of the robot's punches with just one hand. "Is that all you've got?" he scoffed before effortlessly dismantling the robot's limbs and filling the room with the sound of electricity. As expected, there's always that one clown in the group who refuses to acknowledge the obvious. In this case, it was this buffoon who couldn't fathom the idea that Lu Sheng was a force to be reckoned with. Instead of showing some humbleness, he giggled and proclaimed that the robots were just a pile of junk. He even dared to try and lead the group away from the danger, but they were all understandably hesitant. With everyone else trembling with fear, this moron swaggered over to one of the robots and placed his hands on his hips. With a burst of confidence, he sprang into the air and aimed a spinning kick at the robot's head. To everyone's surprise, he actually managed to uncoil the robot's head from its body. But before he could even bask in his own glory, A colossal fist came out of nowhere and sent him flying across the room. The impact of the blow dislocated his jaw, knocked out several of his teeth and broke his cheekbone. With an unintelligible babble, the buffoon muttered something about the robots being a level 2 threat, not level 1. As the group helped the battered buffoon to his feet, they watched in awe as Lu Sheng decimated the robots with ease. It was almost as if he was bored with the whole ordeal. With a casual yawn, he effortlessly broke through the robots' defenses and exposed their cores, making quick work of them. Meanwhile, outside the hallway, a worker had been keeping an eye on the situation. He had assumed that the robots had malfunctioned, but then the door behind him creaked open, revealing a scene of chaos and destruction. Flames roared through the hallway as the robots exploded one by one. Lu Sheng caught sight of the worker and quickly deduced that he was likely a guardian for the stage. Without hesitation, he unleashed a devastating punch. In the control room, a stunning woman with black stockings monitored the entire camp. A green-haired man entered the room, holding a steaming cup of coffee. He greeted the woman by her name, much to her chagrin. The woman scowled and ordered the man, who was none other than Major Qin Zhaojun, to address her by her proper title, Lieutenant Colonel Dong Jing Shuai. As the two settled into their chairs, Major Qin couldn't help but express his curiosity about the quality of the prodigy camp. Lieutenant Colonel Dong rubbed her forehead in frustration, unimpressed by the candidates she had seen thus far. There were only 8 who even met the standard, and none of them seemed particularly special. That is until she noticed one girl who stood out from the rest. This girl was an 18-year-old martial artist with a spirit type, who was almost at the level of a spiritual master and approaching level 2 as a martial artist. Her skills were impressive to say the least. Lieutenant Colonel Dong couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope for the camp's future prospects. As Major Qing took a sip of his coffee, he tried to break the silence with a joke, but his attempt fell flat, leaving him with an awkward smile. He quickly shifted his attention to the screens in front of him, scanning the various camera feeds in the camp. Suddenly, his eyes widened in shock and he accidentally spilled hot coffee all over himself, but he didn't even flinch as his gaze remained fixated on the screen. Lieutenant Colonel Dong Jing Shuai noticed Major Qin's reaction and immediately turned her attention to the screen as well, her eyes widening in surprise. What they saw was unbelievable. What y'all thought of this, Lieutenant Colonel?